Hey guys, how's it going? Today is Sunday, so you know what today is. It is Share Jesus Without Fear. We are almost done this book, so I hope you're looking forward to the next book that we do, which will be called Boundaries. So that'll be helping me and also, I hope, helping you. And I hope this book has really helped you. So let's just get into this. Where we left off last time was still in chapter 9, at the end of it, of developing and keeping non-Christian friends. So I'm going to continue where it says maintaining relationships. So it says, how do we maintain relationships with friends who have not responded to the gospel? When people come into my life who know where I'm coming from, who are expecting me to share my faith at any moment, I have a great deal of fun. I just spend my time loving them. Almost always, it bugs them. They will ask me, well, are you doing churches? Are you still doing churches? Are you still reading the Bible? Because I guess at that point they think because you're not automatically just going into this big Christian spiel with them, they think, okay, they're not following Christ anymore, right? I sometimes answer with a simple yes. In situations like this, I wait for the inevitable tragedy that will come into their lives, and I know there will be such moments because no one gets through this world unscathed. When they come, I want to be there in expectancy and love. So, we need to be there for them in the good times and the bad, and that's the whole point of it. The last part of this chapter is lifestyle evangelism. This chapter has really been about life evangelism. To me, lifestyle evangelism is when we live our lives in a way that is open, vulnerable, caring, and matched by equal moments of integrity and character. This way, people will be fascinated by our differences and motives. The undergirding of this lifestyle brings is a deep love for people and a deep devotional life with God, because it is out of the overflow of our hearts that people will come to know him. Jesus lived the perfect balance of lifestyle evangelism. He was willing to touch the untouchable, to love the unlovable, to teach and correct the unteachable. Everything Jesus did was based on his life for his Father as well as his love for others. So always be ready to give the reason for the hope within. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15. To close off that chapter, it is about no matter who it is, no matter what they look like, no matter what they're going through, no matter who they are, we need to be there for them as Christians and let them know, that this is what we do. We're carrying people the way that Jesus would have been there for the leper that he healed, for the dead that he raised, for the woman who was having women problems nonstop for her whole life, and he healed her just by her touching his robe. But he didn't condemn her for that. He says, your faith has healed you. She had enough faith to know that if she touched his robe, that she would be healed. They're just so many things, Now, the next chapter that we'll be getting into, and it should be close to the last couple of chapters, is chapter 10, How to Pray for Non-Believers. Now, you don't have to use the exact words that he uses, but, these are just helpful hints that we can all use. Our prayer lives are a measure of how well we are doing in other areas of our spiritual lives. For this reason alone, I encourage you to take time out of your busy day to pray. And we talked about this in the life group that I'm in. We don't pray enough. You can pray wherever you are. You could be sitting in a restaurant and you see someone that looks like they're having a rough day. You don't have to pray out loud. You can pray in your mind, for them. For this reason alone, I encourage you to take the time out of your busy day to pray. Your prayers should include praise and worship, confession of sins, and intercession for yourself and others. As you pray, you become more aware of God's presence in your life. As 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 17 points out, we are to pray continually. This is great advice because if we all have an ongoing conversation with God, we will always find ourselves seeking his presence. I like what Mother Teresa's business card said. The fruit of silence is prayer. The fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. The fruit of faith is service. The fruit of love is service, and the fruit of service is peace. Through prayer, we are led to faith, love, service, and peace. James Cymbala, a pastor from Brooklyn, New York, would agree. He tells his story in the book Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire. He relates that he came to a point at which, unless God broke through, the ragtag Brooklyn tabernacle he pastored was doomed for closure. Not only was his small church in trouble, he could not shake his winter cold that had dragged him on for months. And finally, Cymbala's in-laws sent him to St. Petersburg, Florida, to get some much-needed rest for his congested lungs. And one day, this young pastor was on a fishing boat with 20 tourists. He sat by himself and silently prayed, "Lord, I have no idea how to be a successful pastor. I haven't been trained. All I know is that Carol and I are working in the middle of New York City with people dying on every side, overdosing from heroin, consumed by materialism, and all the rest. If the gospel is so powerful," and he couldn't finish because of his tears. It was then he sensed God speaking to him. "If you and your wife will lead my people to pray and call upon my name, you will never lack for something fresh to preach. I will supply all the money that's needed, both for the church and for your family, and you will never have a building large enough to contain the crowds I will send in response." And this is the thing with a lot of pastors. They want to bring more and more people into the church because they know that means more believers. It's not necessarily, people think, oh, it's just for money. This is all we want from the church. And that's not it. I mean, I do understand that money helps run the church, but that's, Now, when Pastor Cymbala got back to Brooklyn, he told his congregation, "If we call upon the Lord, he has promised in his word to answer, to bring the unsaved to himself, to pour out his spirit among us. If we don't call upon the Lord, he has promised nothing at all." It's as simple as that. So no matter what I preach or what we claim to believe in our heads, the future will depend on our times of prayer. And this is the thing, you can pray where you're laying in bed. You can pray sitting in the toilet. I mean, it sounds silly. You can pray while you're doing the dishes. And I don't think when we're praying that we thank God enough for everything that he's doing, whether it's suffering that he's caused to help us see what we're doing wrong and stuff like that, or whether it's an answer to prayer. So today, Pastor Cymbala has been the pastor of the Brooklyn Tabernacle for over 25 years, and in that time, the congregation has grown from 20 members to more than 6,000. God has continued his work through the praying church. Pastor Cymbala was right. Ask nothing, get nothing. Jesus taught us, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds, and to him who knocks the door will be open. Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 and 8. So if it's simple, if you don't ask, you don't get. Can you enter into the heart of God? Only through prayer. So this last part of it, I'll read a little bit. It says pray before you share, which is another thing that you should be doing, because you need to pray for God to lead you to say the right things. So I cannot think of a single time out of the thousands of times I've shared my faith that I haven't prayed for the person beforehand. Even if it is a chance meeting, I silently pray for God's help. Also, I have a list of unbelievers for whom I pray for daily. Some of these people have been on my prayer list for years, others for only a short time. These people range from relatives to famous people God has put in my heart. Kathy Grant understands the call to pray for non-believers. She prays for 2,500 unbelievers in a given week. Not long ago, she and her husband, Paul, were flying from Atlanta to Denver when she saw a senator who had been on her prayer list for 7 years. He sat next to her and she talked with him for 3.5 hours. After a while, she asked, Do you know what the gospel is? Well, no, he said. There he was, 66 years old, and he had never heard the gospel. Kathy asked, would you humor me and look at some verses from the Bible? Sure, he said. So Kathy took him through the Share Jesus scriptures, and later she said, as he read the scriptures aloud, I could see the Holy Spirit working. He did not pray to receive Christ that day, but Kathy knows she was successful because she had been obedient, not only to pray, but to share her faith. She says, it was one of the highlights of my life. I, too, watched the power of prayer make a difference in unbelievers' life. A few hours ago, I took a major government official in law enforcement, a man who I will call Ted, out to play golf. The group consisted of myself, Ted, and one other Christian named Zane. On the 5th hole, I turned to Ted and said, do you go to church anywhere? He rattled off 5 churches across the country, and I asked, if you died, where would you go? And he strode 2 steps toward me and growled, Faye, you know exactly where I'm going. I wasn't about to back down, so I took 2 steps toward him. We were standing nose to nose, and I smiled and said, Ted, I don't have a clue where you're going. So out of the corner of my eye, I saw my friend Zane literally bow and begin to pray. As he prayed, I could see Ted's heart melt. He said, you're right. I don't know where I'm going either. And right there on the 5th hole of the Plum Creek golf course, he gave his heart to Christ. I'm convinced I saw the power of the intercession melt the heart of one who was resistant to God. It was wise to pray for unbelievers. It is wise to pray for unbelievers. It is also wise to use prayer as a way to prepare for your sharing your faith. How can prayer help you get ready? For starters, you can pray for, and next week I will tell you the rest of that. So there's definitely things like, the one thing you can do is sit down and you can use prayer and say, Lord, show me the things I need to pray for, the things that need to be brought to light. And he will bring things to your mind, and have a pen and paper ready, because you can write down those things you need to pray for and, go through that list as you pray and say, I pray for this. And you never know, you might start praying for that one thing and end up an hour just on that one thing. Don't let it stop you. So anyways, that is the end of this. Night Owl on her way out. Please leave a thumbs up before you leave. Please hit that red subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. You'll never miss another video that I make. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. God bless. Bye.